Hello and welcome to Dragon Bites, the paediatric podcast aimed at paediatric trainees or anyone interested in child health. I'm Asim, one of the paediatric trainees here in Wales and one of the presenters for Dragon Bites. This week we've got a very Wales-oriented episode for you. I had a chat earlier in the week with Kellen Kenny, one of our paediatric trainees here in Wales, who has a regular spot on the Welsh Language Channel S4C, where she delivers health promotion messages to the Welsh-speaking public. We spoke about Kellen's career in paediatrics so far, about her lifelong interest in working in the media, and how these paths met when she was asked to present on the TV show Prynhawn. Anyway, let's get started. Okay, so I'm very fortunate today to be here with a local celebrity. We've got Celyn Kenny.
Oh, don't encourage me, Asim.
But you're our local celebrity. Hi, Kellen, how's it going?
Hi, Asim. Thanks so much for having me on Dragon Bite.
Well, you're more than welcome to be here. So, for people who don't know, Kellen is one of our paediatric trainees in Wales. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm one of the ST3s working in Cardiff at the moment. So yeah, but I've also got another, I would say, interest, and I work also with S4C, which is the Welsh Television Channel, and I work on a programme called Prynhawn, which is literally a Welsh translation of Good Afternoon, and I work alongside the medical team on that, giving information as a children's doctor on live TV.
That's amazing. And that's basically what we're here to chat about today.
Yeah, I am. And I'm hoping to get people just to raise a bit of awareness about the Welsh language as well, especially within medicine. Because within Wales as well, we have to remember a lot of our young patients, a lot of them only speak Welsh. I was one of them. I couldn't speak any English until the age of 6. So I think it'll be a good opportunity as well to sell the Welsh language.
I think that's fantastic. I couldn't speak any English until the age of 4, but Welsh wasn't my primary language at the time. Anyway, so I thought we could start just by learning a little bit about you, Kellen. So, can you tell us a bit about your career so far, everything you've done medicine related?
Yeah, so I went to Cardiff Medical School. I didn't go very far. But then when I graduated, I did venture across the border, and I literally went to the border and did my foundation training in Shrewsbury and Telford.
About as close to us as you could get.
Exactly. So I went away, but literally just to the border. I wasn't brave enough to go any further. And I did a foundation F2 job in Peds. And I started, and it's actually quite a funny story because I started my core medical training with your wife.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So, and that's how I came to know who you were. And my first day of core medical training, they asked me if I had any questions, and I said, "When can I hand in my notice?" Because I just knew that finishing my F2 Peds job, I couldn't go back to adults anymore. So I was really lucky to be put in touch with Colin Powell. And it's actually a funny story. So I was looking for Colin Powell's office, um, who was one of the general paediatricians at the time in the Heath. And I walked into Jenny Calvert's office, who was the clinical director for neonates. And as it happened, there were no general peds clinical fellow jobs in the Heath, Newport or Swansea at the time, but there was a clinical fellow job in NICU. And I had an email from Jenny Calvert saying, I think we met because you walked into my office looking for Colin Powell. And if you want to come and have a chat and see if you want to do a clinical fellow job in NICU, which obviously as just finishing F2, a tertiary NICU job is terrifying, but it was one of the best years I've had, I would say. And then I got into PEDS training the year after, and since then, I did a year of general peds, as you do, have 6 months in the Heath, 6 months in a DGH in Swansea.
Oh, and we should probably point out by the Heath we mean the University Hospital of Wales. It's just our nickname for it in Cardiff.
As yeah, how we knew it in med school as well. Um, and then I went to Swansea, to Morriston Hospital in Swansea for 6 months. Then I went back to NICU at the University Hospital of Wales. And then I did 6 months community, and now I'm doing an oncology job at the University Hospital of Wales, which I'm really enjoying.
Well, I mean, that's incredible. I didn't know that story about you and Jenny Calvert at all. That's amazing. So you must have, so I'm guessing you must have applied for core medical right at the start of your F2 year. And because does that mean it was you that, because PEDS was your last job in F2, is that why it was only then that you realized medicine wasn't for you?
I've always enjoyed working with children, but I thought I'd find it too hard working with children in a hospital setting. So before I went to med school, I was a swimming instructor, so I was used to working with children all the time. So I knew I was fortunate to be able to form good rapport with children, and stuff. But then I thought I wouldn't be able to deal with children being unwell. But doing my F2 job, I just fell in love with the specialty, and I knew there was no way I could go back to a general medical on call.
Well, I remember full well when you were applying to do this NICU placement because I happened to be in NICU in the University Hospital of Wales at the same time. And as you've already mentioned, you were working with my wife, Heather. And Heather turned to me and said, "One of the SHOs I'm working with has already had enough of medicine, and she's going to come join you on neonates. Can you make sure you take good care of her? Her name's Kellen."
And you did. You listened to your wife.
I tried.
You did.
But that was a really good year. I enjoyed that year of working with you.
Yeah, we had an excellent year. There was a really nice team, and it just made me realise I'd done the right thing leaving core medical training to do peds.
Which is something that everyone should do and realise.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, you told us a bit about what drew you into paediatrics. What are the things you love most about being a paediatrician?
Um, I think it's the relationship we can not only form with the children, but also with their parents as well. Because I think sometimes we forget there's two patients, the actual child in front of us and the parents. And I do really enjoy that aspect. I think because I just enjoy talking to people, as you know very well.
Yeah.
Communication is a big part of who I am. So I think that was one of the main things. And as well, I find the problem solving of pediatrics a lot more interesting than adults. And it's just more fun. Do you know? Like, even putting in a cannula, which is so stressful at times, is in a way you can make it a game, which makes pediatrics, just a bit more fun and also rewarding.
I mean, I totally agree. It's really interesting what you say about communicating to parents because actually one thing that I've learned having interviewed a lot of foundation trainees and medical students is one thing that scares a lot of them or puts a lot of them off pediatrics is the fact that they also have to deal with parents. But I think those of us who work in the field, we're actually pretty okay with it. In fact, we enjoy that aspect.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the thing about peds is you have to remember it's a family-centered um, specialty, so you have to take in the parents into consideration when you're dealing with the care of the child.
I completely agree. Anyway, it was lovely. So hopefully, all our listeners will now have an idea as to the kind of person you are, which, to put it simply, is just a lovely, fantastic person.
Oh.
Um, so, so moving on to your work with S4C, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started there and yeah, and everything from that point?
So obviously I attended a Welsh primary school and a Welsh secondary school, so being part of um, to performing is a big part of my life. So I've been doing the Eisteddfod, which is obviously our national festival where we celebrate the children of Wales almost on an annual basis. So I was part of the Eisteddfod from a very young age. And actually a story, this is why I think I was drawn to be into broadcasting was when I was little. I was doing reciting, and my recital teacher was in fact Hugh Edwards' mother. So I feel like I've had to I've had to excel because she also taught him, and he's now presenting the news. So if I could, if I had to have a very good teacher to be able to have the confidence to do that. And through Sunday school, she used to teach me how to say a hymn, and it's that confidence of public speaking which is what's drawn me into performing, I would say. And then I was fortunate to get loads of opportunities through my secondary school, which is Ysgol Gyfun Ystrada in Kenney. I had loads of opportunities with the school choir and the Eisteddfod and public speaking. I was part of the debating team, and through there I made connections with S4C. When I was in year 9, I filmed a TV programme with Alex Jones, who's now presenting the One Show. It was a Welsh TV programme called Hip Neu Skip, which the Welsh translation doesn't differ too much from the English. It was like a Welsh changing rooms. So that started my interest into working within the media, especially Welsh media. I'd done a lot of work with Chinopolis, which is the TV studio that runs Prynhawn even through school. And I've always, when I got into med school in sixth form, I always had in the back of my mind, I would love to combine my passion for medicine and also my interest and the enjoyment that I have with working within media as well. If there was a way in the future that I could combine them, that would be a dream come true. And when I was an F2, the junior doctors were going on strike in England, and I was approached by a Byd ar Bedwar, which means the world on 4, which is our news night programme for S4C. And they filmed me just a normal day as a junior doctor, and then they filmed us how I felt about the strikes. And from then I was approached by the S4C News quite a bit, and I've done quite a bit of work with S4C News. And then I got approached last year. So I'm very fortunate. I've got an excellent friend who's a TV presenter on Prynhawn, and he'd obviously seen me, because he's a supportive friend, doing my bit on the news when they ask for my opinion and stuff. He'd seen me on that, and he knows I can talk, and he knows I enjoy talking to people quite a bit. And the TV doctor for the day that he was presenting was, as it happened, she was unwell and she was unable to be there. And he phoned me up and he was like, "Can you do me a favour? Can you talk about sepsis in children on Prynhawn tomorrow?" And as it happened, I had a day off, and I was like, "Well, yeah, I can do it." And we talked things through, and I was really fortunate. I almost fell into the role. So from someone calling in sick, which is very ironic being a doctor, and me having a day off, I just did that one little bit on sepsis, and they asked me if I was free the following week, and I was. And then then they asked me if I wanted to be part of the team, which was an honour almost, because it's a TV show, Prynhawn that it's great. Like, any age can watch it. It's our Welsh version of This Morning. It's a magazine show, deals with cooking, fashion, and of course medicine. And it was almost a dream come true when they asked me to be on what we call the famous yellow sofa, and especially working with one of my best friends, David. It's great.
Bloody hell, Kellen. I had no idea about any of this part of your history, that you were essentially, you've been a celebrity for so long. You've just been casually name dropping there this whole time.
I wouldn't say name dropping. I don't know if Alex Jones passed me in the street now, I don't think she'd recognise me as the little girl I was when I worked with her.
Yeah, I suppose you were in year 9 at the time.
I was year 9. But yeah, so I've been fortunate to have a lot of experiences which started through my school, and I'll be forever grateful for everything Ysgol Ystrada, all those opportunities they gave me, both academically and extracurricular. And performing on the Welsh Eisteddfod stage is just, it's an honour, and it's just such a good experience and gives you such a confidence boost. So I've been fortunate through that to be able to feel that I can almost take my experiences from school, from the Eisteddfod, into my job, into something that's a vocation, to be able to take it further and use it in a positive way, and especially when it comes to child health, because there's not many individuals who speak about child health on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I always, I mean, anything in which child health's promoted is great, particularly when it's promoted by, one of our experts in the field.
And I hope, well, working experts, is still learning.
Well, I mean, so your first time on the show was about sepsis. How often are you on the show, and what other sort of things have you been, what other things do you get asked about while you're with them?
So I've done a bit about sepsis. I've also done, there was CMV, National Awareness of CMV virus last year, and they asked me to be part of that. As it happened, the lady, so we had there was a parent who'd written to the show saying my son contracted CMV when he was a baby, when he was still inside me, and I want to come on the show to talk about it. And as it happened, she was talking about this fantastic consultant at the University Hospital of Wales who took her under her wing, and that was our very own Jennifer Evans. And I was like, oh my god, yes, she is fantastic. So it was just such a good experience to do that. Since then, obviously, we've had a pandemic hit. I don't know whether you're aware of that.
No, I've not heard about it. What's going on with this pandemic?
The coronavirus. And obviously being working in Cardiff and working in the hospital, I've been doing weekly updates, almost answering questions. And then of course when we had the medical alert almost about the inflammatory response after contracting coronavirus for pediatrics, they obviously asked me to talk about that. So I was on it weekly during the peak of the pandemic, but now I'm on it every 2 weeks, every 2 to 3 weeks, which obviously works well with work and stuff, because it is hard with the commitments of on-call shifts as well.
I mean, that's incredible that you're on there that regularly. It must be quite a workload having to, because I mean, when that stuff was coming out about the sort of inflammatory response to COVID, there's a lot of information that you need to take in before you can present it to the public.
Yeah, and I think what I think is fortunate, as pediatricians, that's something that we should be good at, because how often do we have to go and speak to our parents and explain to them? And when I'm asked questions on TV, I always think, right, how would I explain this to a parent, and how would I, as a parent, want this information shared to me? And that's what I think when I'm being asked these questions on live TV. You're just in work every day. How would you explain this to a parent?
I mean, that's fantastic. That's a really good way of going about it. I mean, yet again, I know everyone's aware now that this is a Welsh language show. Do you find that I mean, are there any particular differences or difficulties that you run into doing things in a Welsh language form than in English?
I think one thing that I do on when they ask me a question, I make sure I do use the English term, the correct English medical term, um, so that, and I explain the basics in Welsh. But when it comes to medical terms, I'll always use the English, because I think that's important as well. That the correct terms are getting across to parents and to the viewers, and also, you know, it it makes you sound more natural, I find, when you're having a discussion, if you just use the English terms on occasion, just to make that explanation a bit easier. Because sometimes, as much as I love the Welsh language, we have got a lot of extra letters, like the double L, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's not an easy language.
And I suppose, I mean, of course, um, a lot of these new terms won't have made their way into a Welsh translation yet, will they?
No, exactly. But fortunate coronavirus is coronavirus, so it's not too much.
I love Welsh.
Yeah, it's a great language.
And just to point out to listeners, I'm genuinely not making fun. I am born and raised in Cardiff, so I do have a very deep fondness for Welsh.
And your wife is obviously Welsh speaking.
And my wife, well, she wouldn't describe herself as that, but certainly all my in-laws are very Welsh speaking, and she's Welsh trying.
Yeah, I speak Welsh to her. She can speak Welsh.
Yeah, she can understand it, but she doesn't. Perhaps she just doesn't speak it around me. Anyway, sorry, we're getting all distracted. Let's get back on topic. So, uh, you know, are there? Do you find that there are any particular advantages to giving your health promotional messages in Welsh in the local language?
I wouldn't say there's any, obviously I think speaking Welsh is an advantage, but I wouldn't say as such there's any advantages to giving it out in Welsh. I think it's just good for S4C viewers who a lot, believe it or not, there's a lot of people in Wales who feel so much more comfortable just speaking in Welsh. I've got friends who are in their 20s and they they feel uncomfortable speaking in English. So there's that aspect of it. So it's a benefit for them. But I think it's just if the option is there to do something in Welsh, because we want to make sure that the language does continue. For me, I have to always take that advantage of making sure I take that option and make sure that parents and patients know that that option is there for them. Because I on the ward I'm on at the moment, we've got a load of Welsh speakers, and they're always excited to speak Welsh. There's a patient today saying, "Is it just you?" Obviously in Welsh. Can you tell me who else speaks Welsh? And things like that. So I think that's nice for patients when they know that you speak Welsh when it's their first language as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, do you have, because probably a lot of our listeners from outside of Wales might not be aware of this, do you have one of those, Cymru badges, the I Speak Welsh badges?
Oh, I do, and I have the lanyard. I'm like what do they say? A milwr yr iaith Gymraeg. I'm like a Welsh language soldier. Anyone I know, I can sniff out people who can speak Welsh, and I give them a lanyard. I've got like loads of lanyards in my bag, and I'm like, have a Welsh speaking one.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of Welsh speakers. I'm afraid I can't really help with that, but hopefully we'll get on to a bit more with that in a minute. So, I suppose we've discussed sort of the Welsh language aspect of your talks, more from a sort of clinical aspect. How do you make sure that, the advice that you're being asked to be, to give, the advice you're asked to give when you're on your show, how do you make sure that that's in line with current evidence, in line with what the Royal College is preaching?
Well, that's what I do. I go on to the Royal College. I make sure that I use everything. Everything that I share is information we've been given as trainees. I look at our guidelines. I look at any information shared to us. I look at the recent updates on things. And especially on our portal and the because the college have been doing lots of regular updates, and the new one coming through now is they're talking about the second pandemic, which is the effect of this pandemic on the mental health and well-being of our pediatric patients on our children. So that's what I spoke about last week on the show, because it's really important to remember that this pandemic will have its effects that we don't even know, we can't even see, and the effects on well-being, which is going to be a big thing in the coming months.
Absolutely. And I think something that's really topical on that front is of course the Royal College backing children going back to school, because
Yeah.
there's going to be this long-term impact from our children having missed months and months of school.
Yeah, so my mother's a head teacher, so a lot of things like that I discussed with her, and her asked, to see what she thought. She was giving me the her update, so I could make sure that everything I've got from the education point of view was correct. So yeah, it's good to see both sides, but I am 100% in. I think these children need to go back to school for them.
I think it's worth pointing out at this point. This is a slight aside, but one of our this we've got this fantastic trainee who's spoken with us before on Dragon Bites, Kate Burke,
Uh,
who's nearly a consultant. And I don't know if you saw it, Kellen, but she wrote this amazingly articulate and eloquent letter to
oh,
the Welsh Assembly, highlighting all opinions of the pediatric junior doctors about children going back to school. And she sent this letter to them. And I think it was just like 2 days later, another letter came from Russell Viner to the main government. It was just fantastic that our trainees had essentially preempted a move from the Royal College.
I know, how amazing is that? And that letter was fantastic.
I strongly, anyone who's listening, if you haven't had a look, I strongly recommend going to Kate Burke's Twitter account and having a look at the letter, because it's a brilliant letter.
I 100% agree.
Anyway, we're not talking about Kate Burke today. We're talking about the excellent Celyn Kenny. So you're super famous now. Do you ever get recognised on the streets?
No, well, I wouldn't say I get recognised on the streets, but once people, because I got my name is quite, Kellen Kenny. It's got a nice ring to it. Like a lot of people say, "Oh, you're Kellen Kenny." Yeah, my gran talks about you, so it's more because it's a TV program loved by the grans. So the people are more aware of the name, and I think there's been a few patients in work whose parents have recognised me. So yeah, I mean, one of them was on the way to pick, and she was like, "Oh, you're on S4C." I was like, "Oh, I'm just looking after your dog." I was like, "We'll talk about that again. I'll come back and see you."
Oh, that must be a really nice feeling.
Yeah, it is. It's lovely. I just want to make sure that that they still feel that they can approach me. Even, I want to be an approachable person on TV.
Oh yeah, you don't want to be one of those celebrities that everyone gets super intimidated by.
Yeah, that's not me, is it? I
You're just
don't
too friendly. You're too approachable in
I
the way
don't
you are.
look at myself as a celebrity. But when I'm with my friend David, who's on the show regularly, people would notice us more then.
Ah, brilliant. Well, I thought one thing that we could do just to tie things off today is to, get our head around Welsh language a bit. Now, even though I was born and raised in Cardiff, I ditched Welsh when I was like, I think 12 years old, because it was before Welsh became a mandatory GCSE. That's how old I am. So I've long forgotten much of my Welsh. Could you give us a couple of Welsh phrases that you love in particular that we could start using day to day?
Yeah, well, of course, bore da, which is you come on at him, bore da
Bore da?
is good morning,
Yeah.
and then you've got Prynhawn da,
Prynhawn da?
good afternoon, and then nos da is good night, and obviously diolch,
Diolch, thank
which
you.
is like, yeah. But one of my favourite Welsh sayings, and I've used it quite a lot through this pandemic, is daw eto hael ar fryn.
I'm not even going to try.
So daw eto
Daw eto,
hael
hael
ar
ar
fryn.
fryn.
So daw eto,
Daw eto, hael ar fryn.
and I even taught this to Dr Uzon, who I'm sure who's done a podcast as well.
Yeah, he's done loads for us.
Yeah, so he knows this as well. So it means that the sun will come out and shine again. And it's
Oh,
lovely, isn't it?
that is a lovely phrase.
Yeah, so daw eto hael ar fryn. And I think that's so important for us to remember during this time. Because, we are getting through it and it is getting better.
That is an absolutely lovely phrase. I love it, Kellen.
Yeah, I've got it up in my house, as you can imagine, Welsh art everywhere.
Can I tell you? So the only Welsh phrase I can remember that I don't know why this one. I do know why, but this is the only one that's stuck in my head all these years. Is mind a bunny.
It depends.
It depends, and the only reason I remember it is because it just sounds like saying "mind the bunny" in English.
Mind to funny. Yeah, that's a good one. And of course, I think a lot of people would know Popty Ping.
Poppity ping.
Yeah, microwave in Welsh.
Oh, amazing! That is a great word, poppity ping. And then I feel like there's this really nice Welsh word for excellent that I always forget, but it sounds lovely.
Ardderchog.
That's it. I
Ar-
really like that word.
yeah, that's a good sounding words.
Okay. Anyway, I just want to say thank you very much for chatting to us, Kellen, and giving us all these Welsh phrases.
Thank you for asking me. It's lovely.
Well, I mean, oh, and we should also point out, as a final thought, of course, Kellen, you're going to come join us over at Drangobites and start doing some of our podcasts for us too.
Yeah, if you'll have me.
Of course. How could we ever say no to the great Kellen Kenny?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, thank you again, Kellen.
Diolch, Asim.
Cheers, bye.
Bye.
And I just want to say thank you to Kellen for recording that episode with us. And as we said then, Kellen will be joining us soon as one of our presenters here, so hopefully we'll be hearing more from her in the future. For this week, though, thank you for listening to Dragon Bites.